Good afternoon, Leah. How are you? I feel like I'm going to be teaching one-on-one again to you today.
Yeah, I think one of my group mates is going to pop by at some point too. We just have a class before this that is sometimes kind of draining.
Yeah, no worries. Thank
Mm.
you for joining.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks. Thanks for showing up.
Great. So it's 2:26. We are going to start today. I've a feeling that most people are probably going to use this time async. Hey, Jimmy, how are you? And but the session is being recorded, so we will continue on information architecture diagrams. We are going to look at some information architecture and then I'm recording the session. And if there are any questions as we go through the material, please feel free to both of you, Leah and Jimmy, to raise your hand or come on voice. I'll be more than happy to help. I'm going to share the presentation. So thank you for submitting the assignment from last week. I have not had a chance to look at the lab for the information architecture for the diagram, but I definitely had a chance to spend time on the zoo and the assignments that were submitted. I was really happy, very happy with the quality of what was submitted from all the classes, from all the teams. It was very well done, and I hope you take the time to go through the feedback, as I give a lot of feedback on inside the on the submission, not on me, on Miro as well. But I also give feedback on the final evaluation. But yes, on Miro, I have added feedback. But then I would say if we can, when you submit Miro, if you can give me the option to be able to edit, then I'll be able to add comments, because some of the classes I only had read only. I could not add comments there, so I've added them on the platform on Blackboard. But it's also good for me to be able to add comments there on the mirror wall, so that I can really be very specific and not have to explain what I'm. It's much easier on mirror as well. But really happy with the quality of the work that everybody has put in. Now, I have given a lot of feedback on the cart sorting as well. I give some hints for perhaps things that you should consider for the information architecture. So I'm hoping that you're able to take that feedback and incorporate that feedback into this week's assignment for the information architecture for the zoo, which is due for tomorrow. So very important. If I don't feel that the feedback is being incorporated, then you may actually lose points, because the feedback is important, because this is how you learn. It's one thing to apply, but then when I give you feedback, then you can readjust. And I'm counting on the feedback to be incorporated, obviously, when I give the feedback specifically. One of the challenge with the information architecture or the cart sorting, and coming back from all the different cart sorting for each of your teams, and then coming up with a cart sorting, a final cart sorting, the challenge is to keep what you have found in the individual cart sorting and not undo it, because otherwise, what's the value? Say most teams, and probably all teams, have used a very good approach of looking at patterns, looking what was uncommon, starting from the number of groupings to the label of groupings and what was under each. Some of you went very advanced. So I was really impressed. But yeah, it's a big challenge to actually preserve the work that you have, what you have found in the individual cart sorting, and come up to a final cart sorting recommendation. But I think that you guys, most of you, almost all of you, have managed very well. And me to follow your thought process and what you have done, how you got to a final cart sort or recommendation for the zoo, and it was very well executed as well. And then I gave very specific feedback to each class because everybody had a unique way with some of the final code sorting, but at the same time, there were a lot of consistency. So when you think of it, we could look at all the code sorting from the 10 teams and final code sort based on the teams on the 10. And they're similar, but some of them are different, which we're not going to have a chance to do much in class. But if you have a chance to talk to other teams and share what you have done, it would be good. Now, I'm not doing this because the assignment is still connected and you being marked, and I know some of you are competitive with your marks, so I can't give too much hints because then I don't want anybody to feel that they have to change what they come up with, but you have to adapt to the feedback I give each, right? But at some point, maybe we'll be able to talk of it overall and what has happened. You'll be able to see what others have done, and then you'll see that there are multiple ways of designing the information architecture for the zoo. There's not one way, but we are still at the end. We're still very similar in how we've come up with the card sorting as well in the final one. So we are going to continue today to talk about IA diagrams, and we're going to look at some. I have a lot of IA diagrams that I have posted on Blackboard last week that you all have access to. Make sure that you also look at them, but we're going to review some of them today. And the assignment is due for tomorrow. So this is probably where a lot of you are spending time today. But we will continue with our deck that we had from last week. Before I do that, are there any questions from you, Leah or Jamie, from last week, or anything you want to get clarity on?
Eventually, after your lesson, I think we'll have some questions about the feedback from our assignment, just to make sure we're on the right track. But
okay, perfect.
We'll do that after the lecture.
Awesome, great. Okay, so I shared some tools that are available last week, just to refresh. So if you haven't picked a tool yet, these are tools that you can use. Miro has a information architecture template that you can use. Adobe as well has, and there are many tools that are available. There's a little video on slide 44 that you can actually view on your own as well if you want. And then on slide 45, this is an example of Miro. So Miro has a template that you can use, which some of you may have already done for the lab assignment. And then this is what it will look like. So if you are in Miro, and I would say that this probably could be what it will look like if you've done for the zoo or even for Nightwood. So very basic. If you notice all colors, it's all one blue color. But again, you're going to pick a style that you're comfortable with, but a style that your stakeholder in the business that you're in will also going to be comfortable with. And but simple is, I think, the main rule. If you start putting a lot of color coding, a lot of different meanings to different boxes and what links or not links will be, I think it'll get very confusing. As a sign, if you end up having to teach your IA, then it's a sign that it's probably too complex. Most people are familiar with information architecture. They've seen information architecture or they haven't, but it should make sense to them. Your biggest challenge, sorry, I have a dog barking. The biggest challenge is they'll start looking at your information architecture and they'll say, oh, this is a navigation. Navigation, we're talking about navigation, but it's hard to not think about navigation when we look at IA, because we're looking at level 0 and then level 1. And then the subcategories, hold on. No, stop it. Sorry. And then people will be stuck into navigation. They'll think of navigation and then, they'll say this is a top navigation. So my advice to you is it may actually be your top level 1 is going to be obviously, probably, most likely in your navigation. But so that said, you should probably start thinking about maybe the order of those items as well, because they may say, your stakeholder may say, well, tour is still going to be the first item that I would have on my IA or navigation. And if you know it's probably going to be your navigation because that's the style you have, maybe then you want to put them in the order of priorities. Again, it will be up to you. But if they're not, in the order of priority. And you want to keep yourself some room because you don't want to go into too much detail and be able, you want to get past the information architecture. Then you can say the order is not definitive, the labels are not definitive, but at some point you will have to make decisions and say, this is it, this is the label, these are the draft. And your first time you show it, maybe you just want to reinforce that there'll be flexibility, but at some point it will be final, it will be it. So in this information architecture diagram that we look at, you're always going to have the home. The home is your top starting point where you start. It's your zero level zero, and then often this is going to be home. It will be a logo, will be your, and it will be to your left hand side. So you already have a bit of a sense of where it will go visually. But your top level one here, you have tours, you have cases, and then cases has subcategory. Collaborate with your design, brainstorm, plan visually, create wireframes. So these are subcategories. These will be probably choices. There will be landing pages. You need landing pages, and then you'll be able to click and then get to those pages. And as we know, a high percentage of people will come to those pages through Google search. So they will end up in this, in a page like this. And then, as I said, they will start looking upward to see or what's around them, right? This page will have elements around them, and this is how they start making sense of your site and see, oh, this site is all about this. Now, on your IA, you can also put some notes. What should be here? Tour, what should be here? So this is your living document. This is your working document. So it's yours. And last week we've said, you're in Miro, but you probably start with a pen and paper as well. And you use the real old sticky notes. Different tools available. We know that from Excel to Miro, we can do copy paste, and I'm hoping, I've never done IA using Miro, but I have used Visio. I'm hoping that you can just go to a template that is IA is going to do home, and it will be categories. I don't know. That is, you probably know by now because you had to use something to do your UI as well. But in Visio, I don't believe that you can just copy paste Excel and you get some boxes. It will be lovely, but I don't remember it being an option. If it's changed, then I'm not aware of. In terms of standards, so you probably want to know, are there like standards way of showing a page or showing a link or showing buttons whatsoever? There's no single standard in place really. Now, Jesse Jane Garrett has made an attempt to document some standard, maybe ways that he uses. There's a link. You can actually go to that page if you want and find out about some standards that he's come up. You're just gonna need to develop, but you will see that there's commonalities. So you can have the boxes like here, and I've used most of it. I've used pages like this with boxes, and as I said, you should only show pages or have a unique page URL, and pages are on your site. External links, you don't show them in your information architecture. Then you can show if there's a file, if one of the pages is a file, or you want to show a file, a specific file in your IA, you can, and this is how he has referred to it, but you would have to explain to someone a file and why you would show a specific file. Now the page stack, or a file stack, then the page stack, a very good example of a page stack is, you may want to show, let's go back. Maybe you're going to have tours. So maybe you want to use the stack that says tour 1, tour 2, and tour 3. But maybe you're going to have a way to categorize your tour. You're going to have, maybe you will have lifestyle tours. Maybe you're going to have Cuba or destinations. Maybe you're going to have destination subcategories. And then when you get to them to a specific one, then you're going to have stacks. And then you're going to have all your tours. You don't need to show all of them individually, but this is maybe how you could represent it as well at some point. So many tools available, no clear standards, but typically, but there's a standard of showing A, B, C, and D. Your level 0, as we've said, your level 1, and your level 2, and sometimes you have level 3 as well. You don't show this. This is confusing, right? You want to show order. right? And then most people will think this is your top navigation, and that's okay if you think that. You can see most likely there's a risk, but again, by now I'm hoping you've all done that. Diagram best practices, so what to leave out. So we said don't include features, but if sign in, login, or social elements is what you consider as a feature, there's nothing wrong with showing them in your information architecture if you want. Maybe you have a different way of representing it as well. It will be up to you, but you just want to make sure that you don't lose track of your features. So you have come up with some feature for zoo, you had come up with some feature for Nightwood, you want to document them somewhere. And they will become, some of them may be relevant. Maybe you're going to have a card login. I would put create account in my eyes, and I have. So perhaps for some of you, this is feature that I would say I put them in my, there's no one recipe. At some point, you're going to need to bring them forward somewhere. Maybe this is your starting point. It's up to you. No one's going to penalize you, and I will not penalize you if you do. Technical and content details. Yes, you don't want to start talking about technical specification and content details. What happens when someone clicks, and what happens if there's like rollover. All this is getting too complex. Remember, you're trying to keep it as well, so that people don't get into the caught up. So think about you're designing the number of rooms in your house, the number of floors, and maybe where the doors will be, but you don't want to show the paint color. You don't want to show the ceramic or carpets or the fabric and the kind of tables you'll have. It will just be a long process to get approval. Navigation, yes, we don't show navigation today, right now. But I showed navigation in my IAs. I said top navigation, utility bar, footer navigation, and I would actually list the items again. So in this class, we're saying one step at a time. I don't talk about navigation, but we're going to start talking about navigation tomorrow. You could very well, if you wanted, and if you already know that this will be the top navigation, you can label it if you want to, as long as you probably say it may change, right? And then leave out models and pop-ups. You don't want to show pop-ups. You don't want to show models. You don't want to show. You don't want to show those. It's too early in your UI. Plus, you're gonna have so many probably of models and pop-ups or that will happen on your site that it's too difficult to show it in UI. Let alone the responsive elements. What happens when you're responsive? So I would say this is definitely something you want to leave at the end. So this sometimes I say questionable, but yes, you don't want these. It's some okay. I say okay. You can have some if you want. Yes, this is definitely a big no. So if that would be but I'm also showing you what the school and the school has taught to other students before. Don't be surprised if you see an IA that have some navigation and has some feature in it. Some of the best practice in design: maintain consistency. So again, you have a style. You cannot start designing your information architecture to look like this. People will not understand this is how you should do. But you can have some variations of your style, but avoid having to teach it, having to teach you IA. You don't. You want to use a minimal palette. You want people to focus on the words, on the structure, on the words, on even the sequence as well, the hierarchy. You should include the legends as well. You should, so that you can show. If you say, I'm going to use something for this, then you probably want to show your stakeholder, especially if they've never seen an IA from you. Eventually, they will be very familiar with UIs. You're not going to need to repeat them, but you never know who's going to be new and who's going to be looking at your IA. So you don't want to start doing connection between all the boxes. So we're going to look at some example, but you don't want to start doing lines and say, these will be connected, this and this. Like, this gets too confusing. Don't need to do that. Nowadays, we all know that your pages will have hyperlinks and superlink and local links in places that will happen. it's too early to do this at this stage. That will come into your wireframe, and then it will come into your design spec as well. So balance, breadth. So if you remember my bubble last week, I give you an acronym to remember. My bubble. So bubble, B for business. Then I have user. Then I have breadth. And then I have basic as well. Avoid the details, right? Breadth. I favor breadth because, and L for what was my L? Oh my God, I have a blank. Does anybody remember what the L is for my blank? And then E for expandable. So very, very important, but I will get back to my L.
L is for label.
Oh, thank you. Yes, that's a big one. Thank you, Leo. Labels. Okay. So bubbles should help you. I know it's a lot of B to remember, but I think it's better to have a bit of an acronym. It's easier to remember too. A principle in psychology. It's like telephone number. We group them, so it's a bit the same principle. But nobody remembers telephone number nowadays. They're all saved. Breadth, very, very important. So I encourage breadth because we can show more items, less clicks. The pages are available earlier, and you're giving more visual sense. So all things you have to remember. So diagram, this will be a very, very typical diagram that you would see from an IA. And now we have one that has specific elements on. So we have, then they are using a little icons too for the home if you want, but let's go into it now. Now they're using a lot of color. So I would say I don't like this one because color coding. That would be something that I would avoid. I have never put color in my eyes. My eyes have always been black and white. And then there's no legend. So I would say that's not a good one. Other than that, I'm pretty comfortable with what they have done, but I just don't know why they've done left, and then some different alignments. I think it gets a bit confusing, particularly in this area. Like I have to now kind of see like what is this related to? I don't necessarily like this guy for that reason. But again, it's a question of choice, preferences, and liking and not liking. But this, to me, there's no color. This, you can really focus on the labels and in the content, and in the different section. So Metropolitan Bakery, this is the equivalent of a home in this specific element here. So now we know that we are in a home. And then this will most likely probably maybe be their navigation. But they made choices. So about level 1. So we have a level 1 in this case, and a level 2. And I don't know if they have level 3, but they kept to level 1. They use minimalist palette. They don't use bright color, and they don't have the connectors. The only connectors is everything is under about and connected. So you have your about, and then about will have process, people, press and media, work with us. These are very similar to your to all of them. The zoo, the Nightwood, if you remember, zoo and Nightwood have the zoo. In fact, there are a lot of, and I think that was a piece of comment that I've said for zoo. Some of the teams have put a lot of very, very important information about the zoo that is not the typical about that people would expect like this. But when I think of hours, map, locations, directions, yes, maybe it lives under abouts, but I think they deserve probably a separate section on how you actually navigate your way through the zoo outside of about us. About us, people will expect these items, work for us. But the other items that I just described, they probably deserve to have a little space in this area. That would be me. But if you haven't, it's okay. Don't panic. Don't rush now. But that will be my recommendation in case that you wanted to hear more specifically. But there's no one as we've said. Envisioning information, the visual display of information. There are tons of books that talk about information that you guys These are not my books. They're not my recommendations. I don't know them, but I trust that the previous those books and he may or she may have appreciated what she has found, but maybe you want to take note and then read more about them. When everything is emphasized, background, structure, content, nothing is emphasized. The design will often be noisy, clutter, and information flat. So you want to make sure your information architecture is understood. If it's not, people will judge your information architecture / your ability to convey information / your ability to do good IA. If you remember, we are the product. We are the product, and you are delivering experiences. And if your experience, your delivery of your own experience is hard, then people will question your ability to deliver good experiences for people that come to their website. So it's like my teaching experience. If it's difficult to find the content, you may judge me on my ability of doing good IA or doing good UX as well. And I certainly, by all means, not suggesting that my teaching is perfect. There's always things that we can do to make our teaching better and improve as a teacher. So they talk about, I think it's probably in one of this book that talks about using more, ink for words than ink for color and ink for backgrounds, but words are more important. And the black and white, the lines where you square and the lines, I would say that is probably all of what you need for inks. So this is another example, trying to show everything and label everything. It's really even hard to see what the external ear, middle ear, internal ear are. So Edward Tufte talks about data ink. You're welcome to go in more details if you want about really what he meant. There's highlights on my screen with this and it's driving me nuts. You probably don't see it, but I see it. I'm stepping out and stepping back from the presentation. Okay, let me go back to my slide. Great, it's disappeared. So when we try to emphasize, and there's a little link to a video about data ink if you're interested in. Lots of ink, not much data. So this graph has a lot of ink to the left, and that's the one I do not necessarily like, versus the one on the right-hand side. You can really just focus. In fact, I think it brings people's attention to the boxes and to the labels as opposed to trying to understand the color. So, and I hope that you see that too, as you actually even look at the information architecture. So this one has, and make sure that you use your zoom in and zoom out as well. I don't know why this is not zooming in for me, but what don't we like about this? Don't cross the line. So there are, you see the cross lines, like we're trying to show this will link to this. This is confusing. You don't need to do this. People will know. They expect that, but you don't need to see it on the IA. It takes the focus away from just trying to understand my top level to is my level 2 to my level 2, and then my different categories, fine, and then the boxes are just adding voices. So I would avoid, this is the breadth and depth. So we have, let's look at this guy together. No, it's not even zooming in for me. I don't know if it's zooming in for you. Okay, so my zooming is problematic, but I don't know that I'll be able to look at all the material. Let's go week 4. Some of the diagrams that we have. Okay, now I'm stuck. I went out of the board and my computer is gonna froze on me, but I'm told that you can hear me, which I'm pretty sure you can, but it will take a few seconds for me to be able to go back to Blackboard. avoid the lines altogether across between sections, and not a lot of color. And let's hope that my computer will allow me to come back to Blackboard quickly. Apology. And if I have to get out, then I will get out, but I will come back. I am back now, my apology. And okay, now I can zoom in and zoom out as well if I want. Let's just look at this. So breadth and depth, there's no magic number, but I say 5, depending on how much space you will have. But here they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items. This, I would say, in this area, I would really be looking at, can we reduce the number of sub items, because it will be a lot of items to navigate through. This is a lot of categories. There's maybe room for maybe one item here that we should reconsider, but I think for the number of items to the top, but there are a lot of items in here. Even here, we're starting to have a lot of items too, but some sites will have so much content that this is maybe the only way that they can do with that specific company. Now, they have put the legend as well, so, but I would say, I think they went overboard. It's probably, it's a lot of, there are a lot of items in the legends that you have to remember when you're looking. And maybe they've put some things here that are not needed yet. If they put pop-up or models or intermediate pages, then I would say I would probably remove them. This is a sign that they probably went overboard with the details that they have in their sitemap, but perhaps they have a client that is using comfortable to that level of details that they have seen in the past. This information architecture has 1, 2, 3 many items at the top. So I think they're using a good breadth and not too many, but this one has a lot of layers, a lot of subcategories. So, but this one has a lot of subcategories too. This item has a lot. So that maybe we can surface or split it as well. That may be something that you may want to consider as well in your eye, but I don't have enough information at this point to be able to judge on that. Balance, breadth, and depth. Okay, so we've already talked about this. These two. Balance, breadth. Okay, great. Wow, there's a lot of balance, breadth. Documenting features. So we've been talking about content and features, and content is what people will see. I share with you that sometimes you may want to have features as well, like login, sign in, cart. I think you need to have that into UI. So I would say just use your common sense of how relevant these specific feature may actually be at the time that you do UI, and how much it will help your stakeholder. That is okay. It's no one's going to kill you if it's added, if it's part of it. At some point you will need to have them, but the rule is, and what the other teachers have taught in the past, is you're definitely going to need to have a list of what you want your feature to be, because you've experienced that with your team when you've done the labs and you've done the assignment. If there's a lot of, and we've asked you, think about ideas of features that you would want, and then you can see what the gap is, because you've based this on what you've seen on other sites. You have certain expectation. And what if Nightwood has not even thought of it? Then this is where you add value. You help them about things they haven't considered. Plus, you close the gap between what users will expect as well. the basic list. So you may sometimes have a list that says features. You don't show them in the IA, but you could consider of hiding, showing them, having a box. So let me just open the presentation at a specific slide. So maybe you could have this, and then you have a box, and then you could list, and you could say features, and then you just list them, cart, login, and then you start listing. So at least they know it's not part of the IA, but it's there. And in case they say, well, where is this? Then you can say, okay, great, these are featured. This is a list that we have. So that they will feel that they're being represented and not forgotten. So we are a small class, and these are some diagrams that we thought we could actually use and critique together. But I think you'll know that this one is about color. Why use the color? I would stay away from using color, and I would just be very, very plain and avoid the color. They're not doing linking between section, which is good. And careers and privacy policy, they're kind of suggesting that they're going to do like maybe utility bar. I would probably move these two, these items. I would probably just show them in the architecture, like show them here as well. And career usually is about us, so I would just move them here. There's no point privacy policy, just move them here. So I would just, I think this I would probably just avoid. I would just ignore these because this is kind of suggesting navigation. Just add them here. This is all you need. And no color, zero color. That would be my critique. Zero color. Remember, I'm a lefty using a right mouse. With this IA, what is jumping at you in terms of critique? If you were to critique this particular IA, what would be the main critique that you would want to bring to that IA by looking at this IA at this point? Several out.
Yeah, okay. So obviously a lot of color. I'm also a little confused by the sort of page content under the main page.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't know what to do with that.
Yeah, absolutely, Leah. And also, I would go as far as saying, it's everything should be a page content. So page content, but like too much explanation to do. You're right, and I would avoid a color. I would stay away from color, and I would use all the same color. And then this I would probably remove because they're links. You don't want to show links. Links that are able to access. No, it's too much. It's at this point all you want. About us, about company, all products, all recipe, all recipe. No, this is not needed about company. So they're gonna link about us, about you. This is also like, ooh, weird, strange. Gluten diet, no. Like the links should not. If you imagine if you were to remove all the links, then that's already add the cart, quickly buy. No, this is too level. They're mixing up. They're adding buttons, clicks, and options on page. So definitely no blue, no color, and everything should be a page about us, about companies. But you see how they haven't done a good job, and that's what is happening with the IA right now. Is they spend a lot of time on the not needed elements, but about us and about company. This is so much very redundant. This does not make sense. But maybe they're just going to have an about us page, one page, and that's okay. But that's all they need to show. But then about company, imagine yourself, you click on about us, and then you have a link, now a page that you have to click to go to about company. Not efficient, right? So by looking at just this, I would say this is not needed. Then about you and about you, then there's no value, right? Everything should be a landing page. If that's all of what they have, then they only need this, and they only need then you get to a page, and that's it. It looks like there's no other pages. Then the same thing with diet resources. So if they say these are links, then what's there? So this I is actually poorly done. I have a feeling that it's half done or 25% done. There must be content. There must be subcategories under each one of them. So they haven't really completely done the work that they should do for the IA when it comes to that particular one. Plus the color. So this one, this IA, and again, this is not something that I have put together, so I don't know what are the exact challenges or issues with that particular IA that the other professor would be sharing, but I'm sharing with you what I see and what based on what the rules that I have given us. But me, the utility navigation. So if we say we leave the navigation to this week's content next week, that we should not be showing navigation at this point. But if you do this for me, with me in class, I will be okay. So if we go by class, then we don't show navigation. But if you're with me, then I would say it's okay. You can have some if you want. And then global navigation as well. You would not show, but I would be okay if you were to show it. And then maybe I would probably avoid color. So, and they have a lot of legend, portal page, in-page content, similar content, application. Like this is too much. There's too much page content. And then portal content. How are they different? I don't know. There's too much education to be done here for this IA to be understood. So I think there's a need for simplification. And also, if it does not exist on your site, then you don't show it. And I don't know what portal. So I think this is a portal. I'm hoping this is the portal, the new library website portal. So portal page, this is a page. Everything should be a page, but application, no. Application, it's too early. So what will be on your portal? Then you'll have links to applications, but search, okay, search is fine. So there's a lot of complexity in the site that would need to have some rework. Really, this, like if you think these are applications, these should probably all be removed. They don't necessarily live. Unless you can do a really good job at explaining so that people will understand. I would just keep the white stuff. And then I would question, search and find using library. It's okay to have a blue color if you want one color, but you will need to explain why. But here, portal page, it's irrelevant because you should only be really showing the pages that are on your site. And I'm okay with a footer navigation. I'm comfortable. As well, tabs, this is too early. This is navigation. Tabs, too early, and I would say this is probably too early. There'll be a search, but you don't need to show them all the functionality in the future that you will have. It's too early. You will design the search functionality later. So that would be my main critique. They're too much, and then it's too much that you're going to get into discussions that are not relevant. Discussion that will happen when you do the wireframes and the layout. So that's one way to do it, at it. So we have more here. Okay, so what's jumping at you, Jamie or Leah, at this point with this particular IA based on what some of the things we've just looked at? So this is supposed to be an IA.
I guess it lacks consistency.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the
Absolutely.
homepage and the contact us seem to be on the same level 0, I'm assuming. I don't know.
Great point, Jimmy. So we don't know what's level 0, what's level 1, what's level 2. Very confusing. Now with the color, maybe the color coding meant that, but it's not typical, right? We don't know what is at level 1. And I think that's a main challenge. We know that usually typically level 0 is homepage, but is this level 1? Perhaps level 1, like, and why contact here? Like it's messy. So absolutely, there are a lot of things that are wrong with this IA. This one, dynamic database pages, static page editable via CMS email template. Okay, this alone there, I would say is not needed. Again, you just want to show your pages. How? Is it dynamic? Is it CMS? Is it email? 2D tab. Now you're trying to say, how am I going to be managing these pages? That is going to be a specification document. This is going to be something that does not belong to IA, not at all relevant at this stage. It's too early. And now what's going to happen is you're going to get into the discussion of, they're going to say, no, marketing needs to be able to edit those pages. Okay, well, it's a CMS. No, HR is using a different tool. Like, you're going to go nowhere. Versus really saying, what will this new site, this new Center for Food Safety include? So, and then you can really focus on the content. So level 1, we have footer. So I would definitely remove footer from here. Here it's really, I'd say, now you're gonna say, okay, but teacher, you said we could keep footer, but if you're gonna have a footer, have it here. Don't have footer there. But I think they kind of labeled this as a footer. I know you're not designing elements on the pages, but I would say psychologically, this is maybe where people would expect. You kind of show where the footer as a footer, where the footer is, if that makes any sense. But the rule that we say, we should not have navigation at all. If we were to follow that rule, then I say, well, then we just eliminate that. And that's all gone. And then you really keep sign up. Some people will say, well, sign up might be a feature, but it's a landing page. So I think it's okay to have sign up as a landing page, your confirmation page, email confirmation. No, this is now you're talking flow, okay? We're kind of talking about what happens in the flow in the user from the user point of view. And we're talking about pages that are not pages that are necessarily leaving on your site, but I can imagine that it's probably hard to know, well, what is living on my site, what is not living. But I would say in the AI at this point, this is too detailed. If you remember, email confirmation, intro email with legal information. This is email. This is the email. We're mixing flow, user flow, which will come, or last week. Sign up confirmation. Even that, I don't think you need this. So it's more about you sign up. There'll be a sign up page, but you don't talk about everything else that happened, because then you're going to say forgot password. Like, again, this thing, forgot password. This is even too much. There's too much. You wouldn't need to put all of this. Obviously, you can say there'll be a login and that's it. People will expect all these things. Then in your spec and feature spec, you're going to talk more, but you're going to run into too many questions. Or perhaps your stakeholder wants this and they're used and they're okay and they have a mature. It may be a bit of, I would say, stay away from it. Homepage search, logged in and out. Ooh, they're giving a little bit too much about state, non-state. So I would stay away from showing a state of when you're logged in, when you're not logged out, what you see. Leave that to the details of your wireframing. So I would stay away from logged in, logged out. You're gonna have and they shouldn't be mixing homepage search. Like, you should have search should be here. Homepage level 1. Like, it's hard to tell level 1, level 2, level 3 from this IA2. Then resources and donate and forum, and then you use color coding. Don't use color coding. Resources, great, poor label, because I don't know what this site, Center for Food Safety. Everything is a resource online, in my opinion, if you ask me. Great, donate, fine. But crop type 1, crop type 2, too detail, I would say. Seed sharing law about, resource about. Now, is this level 1, 2, or 1? Like, I don't know now. I'm confused. I'm really confused about level 1, level 2 in the way that they've done. So that is the long story. They've broken that convention, and then I think they've been mixing navigation elements to non-navigation elements. Okay. This one, so what is jumping at you? I personally get that there's a sense of level 0, at least. Level 1, it looks conventional from that point of view, but then maybe it's not. But I think it is. They're showing utility bar, sense of, I would say, utility bar, which I think is okay. I just don't know what those items are. Features, panels, tab search, my account. I don't know what that is. Panels, no. Okay, maybe my account, tab search. Oh, I think tab search is too detailed, but you could say search. There'll be search, my account. That is probably where I would stay. I don't know about color for red, color. I would probably move away from color. And then about us, search using, but search. Then this, I don't need search here. Branches, collections, subjects. Like so far, it seems okay. And then when I go deeper, hours and locations, news, fine. And then they have subcategories. And then they have product pages and product blog. So, but I would probably move away from the color. But I think other than that, it's okay. It looks acceptable what they have done. But here, though, I don't know what is that hierarchy versus, and then here versus this. Like, I don't understand how this is different, so they're not really being consistent. So that is how you can review IA. And I would say the thing that you can do is to actually have someone else share your IA with someone else and say, hey, this is my information architecture. Tell me about my IA. Explain to me my set architecture. Explain to me levels. If it would be me, that I would do this. So do a research with me. Ask people to think loud. So before you actually show your IA to your stakeholder, have a team member. Maybe you write it with your team, your classmate, and then get feedback, right? This is how I'm going to do my evaluation. When I look at your lab, when I look at your with the zoo, if I'm not clear on what I'm looking at, and what I just did with you is exactly the process that I will follow. If I'm not clear on what level 1, level 0, level 1, 2, if you put color coding and there's no legend, but if you put too much detail, then you will hear from me that feedback. Be simplistic. Be consistent, be simplistic, and I need to see the levels, and I need to see that there's nothing is being repeated, nothing is being redundant, and it's page on site. I don't need to know the links. I don't need to see that it's a pop-up. I don't need to see that there'll be links between pages, because we know there'll be links. We know there's going to be a rollover. We know there's going to be accordions. This is way too advanced at that point. Simplest. Here is a very simplest one. This is a very simplistic one that I think that is, so far, it looks very conventional to IA and then understood. I would say this one, because they're using background and white boxes, and I'm questioning the levels. I don't know what my level 1 is. My level 1. Is this level 1? So I would say, okay, home, but they're saying home. Home will have this. No, administrator login. They're completely inconsistent here. Okay, so this is login, and then home. This is not conventional. And this looks like page, like elements on page. They're like mixing page layout or elements on the home page. They're mixing up things. No, this is really, really bad. So I'm losing my level. Our courses, okay, so this is like, let's see, administrator login page. No, this is bad. And then our course modules, our tutors, our students, they're not following convention. So I would have a very hard time to actually read this IA, and I think you guys would agree. General settings. So there's different meanings to different things, and I don't think that it's necessary. / it's confusing. I would need to understand and read their IA before I can even understand the IA. hierarchy of information. So they're doing home, content information. Okay, so at least they're doing home, and then top level 1, footer links. That's okay. And then here they're saying content information, upper console. So it's almost like this thing. This is going to be our utility bar. That's okay too, but constant information. Okay, content information, upper console. But that is utility bar usually. Utility bar usually stay on screen all the time. But I don't know how then carousel and these things are. It looks like they're two utility bar. This is too much detail, I think. If a minimum, I would probably keep this. I have my level 1. So our work, it sounds like level 1, my level 2. I understand my subcategory and I understand my third category. And then there's a footer link here. It's okay. I would say okay. It's at the bottom, right? I can ignore it if I want, but it looks like this is pages. And if you use color, I would go black and white. There's no value in color. And then you have to explain to me, why is this green? Why is this green? What is this green? Simple. Sometimes the less details are better, but stick to the box and the content. I only care about boxes and the content and what's in there. And then we have more and more and more. So there are multiple examples, and let me just share. And I don't think that we are going to do more of this, but I think you get a flavor for what do I look for when I do an IA. But it can be a very, very personal assessment, obviously. But I think you get the gist of it in terms of what would be the things that I would be paying attention as a student, as a teacher, when I actually look at some of the IEs that you will be doing. I give you a lot of diagrams. So we've already looked at this diagram. Let's see if there's another diagram. Okay, so this is another diagram that you can look at. This one looks like we have a set of level 0, level 1, level 2, and level 3. But now there's a split. That split in the middle is kind of awkward. So they're breaking the structure of what we used to see when we see an eye, and then they're using yellow boxes that I don't know what it means versus what the other ones in the white color. My blackboard has frozen on me again. It will come back. And then there's multiple examples that I've shared with you of diagrams in the diagrams. But I think by now, you're starting to seeing patterns, hopefully, and you're starting to see what I will be paying attention and not pay attention, and the things that I like, the things I don't like. The best thing to do is to show someone who would be a user of your IA and try to have them to explain your IA and your site architecture. Have them to explain your site architecture. Listen to them, and then you will see where you have areas for improvement. This site architecture here that we're just looking at, let me share. I just have to share this. So it's one of the examples I gave you. They're trying to show in their eye a post login and a pre-login. And I would say this gets complex. I don't think you should do that in UIA. I would stay away from it. To the home page, don't show post, login, pre-login. You'll know there'll be either a login or there'll be a state for being logged in. But you don't need to show the state when you're being logged in. I think you're going too far. This can be done in the next deliverable, not the navigation, but when you start doing pages and experiences, and as a feature or as a functionality. I just think it will get confusing. People will get confused, and then they can start saying, "Oh no, pre-post, we have to show that this is not the intent of what you want to do." Other than that, I think visually, I can see my level 1, my level 2, my 0, 1, and 2, and 3. They have 3. But then contact us form, they have links. I would start not showing the links their links that they're showing, I think they're becoming too detailed. This level of detail will come into UI when you're wireframing. So I would stay away from those level of details, and I would not expect them in any of UI. This is another example from that was provided in class. I think give you the diagram. And then Viper section, so level 1, level 2, level 0, numbering page makes it easier to match content listed in the category with a specific page. Okay, so you may or you may not have done if you want, but level 00 would be your home, and level 1, section 1, section 2, section 3, section 4, so that you can start mapping your content map, your content Word. Maybe you're going to have a Word document that will have all of your content, that the content writer will actually start writing content, or at least start gathering the content. One of the beauty with IA and information architecture is that your content people will start, well, first of all, you probably start with a content inventory. What are the content that I have today that I don't want to lose? What is the new content that I will be adding, the new sections that doesn't exist that we need to start gathering content to write for? That will be the advantage. And then the content writer is probably going to try to really use the same numbers to even map their content deck as well. Because the one thing that the AI does not have is your content. Your wireframes will not have content. Often you're going to use Laura Epson. It's too much in the wireframe, it's too much in the AI as well. But the number is probably a good thing that you may want to do. So let's see. I do think, let's see if there's more about in the file. When it comes to diagramming, are there any questions about diagrams from you, Jamie or Leah, that you may want to ask at this point?
I was just wondering if, like, we went over a lot that like had color that maybe didn't need it, but would there be an instance where it would benefit having like color coding, I guess?
Well, it's from the moment that you put color coding, I would say the one benefit for me that if I were to use color coding into the information architecture, really, is maybe to give a sense of navigation. But it's early. But you could say I'm going to color code level 1, which is most likely going to be my top navigator. The rest, I don't think is really going to make a lot of sense for them. I just think that from the moment you put color, people will start classifying, and then you're gonna end up in long discussions and long debates. So I don't know any other benefits of using color. Perhaps are you thinking of where and when it would benefit of having color in your IE, Jamie?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Do you think there are any benefits or anything, any usage, is there a time or something, if you look at this IA that I'm showing on screen now, let's look at the color that they've put, and let's really think about what is the value of that specific color that they've already chosen in that IA. That would be something that I would question. Portfolio site. Well, this is an IA for, let's say, probably the portfolio site, right? So how much value is the portfolio site in red? It's actually distracting. Like, I would assume your IA is all about. Then homepage. Great. So you're going to have something called home or homepage. What was the value of having this homepage in this big color? You're not looking at a homepage right now. Right? I'm just thinking aloud, trying to think when really there's a big value of having content like color, because all the content that you're going to show in the boxes is about this portfolio site. It's all pages that will be on your portfolio site. So so far I'm not convinced that color is needed. Homepage, why is homepage in color? Well, it's not homepage, it's there's nothing about my homepage. Now, if you say homepage, then people will think, oh, are these all going to be things visible on my homepage? Well, we don't know. You should not be speaking of homepage. We don't really know of homepage, but it's home, the home button. It's the beginning of your tree. Now let's look, weddings and events in white. Okay. Now white and white and white. Then this is level 0, this is level 1. Okay, white, blue or red, it would make no difference. Photographs, filmmaker, about, blog. So this is my level 1, I would say. I'm in level 1. Let's go on now. Weddings gallery, engagement gallery, portraits gallery, galleries and galleries. They put all of their galleries. But these are, I'm assuming, but I don't know. Like I'm not 100% sure about how I'm supposed to still be reading the IE at this point. So are they going to be subcategories and no subcategory? And what is a gallery and how gallery is important? Is this images at this point? I don't know. I think this is in the IE. This is too detailed. You're going to run now into our gallery. What is gallery? You see how much questions this is all triggering. It's probably too not irrelevant and important. Now, I don't know what blue and red here is. And it looks like one is Andy, one is Brian. Photographer. So you're even saying photographer Brian, photographer Andy. No, this is too detailed at this point. So I don't need this section, let alone the color. I don't need this. If they're not subcategories, if they're not categories in landing pages, then they're not needed. So far, they've used color to start indicating elements on page. It's too early, okay? But again, I'm thinking aloud. When, Leah, do you want to comment? Do you want to make comment about color, Leah?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think like in design, we use color to communicate a lot of things. And like what you seem to be saying is it's adding unnecessary complexity to these designs and implying relationships that aren't there.
Yeah, so absolutely. And I know that we love color with designers, right? So, but yes, like me, I'm reading it from an eye, like if I'm truly trying to understand the content, the structure and the content and what the content will be and the labels, the categories, the subcategories, the color so far is actually not doing this. It's actually distracting me. And I'm trying to understand the value that the color is bringing. And I'm doing the thinking aloud. I'm looking at the IE portfolio. Like this is not even needed. Like so I don't need that color. Like really, this I think is on page. Brian, I should never have Brian and Andy unless these are the only 2 photographers I'm gonna have. But if you have 100 photographers, then all of what you need, you don't need. You know you're gonna have photographer Andy and Brian. Then you should show a stack. Remember? Like we should probably use a stack at this point. I would use a stack and show I'm gonna have photographers. I'm just got it. Then they're gonna have photographers will have a landing pages with a bunch of elements on it. You're gonna deal with it when you come to the page, to the elements. Then the filmmakers, Joe, weddings. Joe as a filmmaker, and then he's done weddings, and then he's done. So these are, I'm assuming they're like, I'm gonna have, I go to filmmakers, I'm gonna have multiple filmmakers, Joe, and then Joe will have weddings. Joe may have, so maybe he's gonna have film types. So I think the eyes, the weddings, and these are film types, but I have confusion. Like I'm not. They could have just used boxes. And color doesn't do anything. Then about us, our story, our studio, great. But these links, we don't need. This is just adding noise. We said, then I go contact. Yes, of course my page will probably gonna have something that will say contact us on all pages of all footer navigation. And then blogs, categories, weddings. I don't think you need to say categories. Then you remove another color. So as designer, this is probably very hard. It probably hurts you of not putting color. The color here, if anything, I think was trying to point me to elements that are not what I need in the IE. And it was too detailed. So the answer is I don't know that I need color. The color is not helping me. We would probably do the same thing. With here, I don't need color either. I wouldn't need color. All boxes could be white. In fact, when you add color, someone's going to say, what is the color? What does the color mean? and you're gonna run into having to explain. The same thing here. What is the color that I would go in and on, and now probably what Trey just said, I would probably erase. I'm gonna add up with something black and white. I'm not a designer, I'm probably boring. But it's just you, to me, it's a sign. Actually, I would ask yourself, is it because we're trying to bring an element of details that is too early on? That does not belong to I. And perhaps that's why we say no color, because from the moment you put a color, if you stick to boxes, categories, top categories, level 0, level 1, level 2 boxes, I think you're fine. You don't need the color. So I would say I think colors are not needed, because from the moment you put a color, you're trying to put an element that is too detailed. But I would say, I would probably keep my I would keep it black and white, no color. But you could have the section that says your list of features, but outside of your I would keep my IA black and white, but you could have outside of your IA your features listed if you want, so that at least on one page we have the information architecture, we have our features, you acknowledge your feature, but you're not mixing them, and you could highlight in the let's see. You could, if you wanted, highlight. Just use this, a border, and say main navigation, main nav, without using color. And then, as I said, maybe you want to put your footer nav here, where people will expect your footer, and then you list your elements. But you're not using color. I don't need color. And then maybe this you want to call this your utility nav. Utility nav. We're going to talk about nav tomorrow. And that's it. I can do all of this. I can achieve in black and white. And they have one color for level 1, which may be okay. But people, because you put that in different color, they may already start associating with your main navigation. I think this IE actually is probably the simplistic, but you don't need to teach me much about it. And I assume all pages here are page on my site. And in fact, I would probably train my stakeholder and your people very simplistic, so that they'll know these are pages. There's no link, there's no hyperlink, there's no pop-up, there's nothing of that. These will be pages. You really force them to then think about, very simplistic, and think about the labels, like these are the labels we think we will use, the subcategories, the choices, and really focus on the content. The content is the meat of your site, what you will be all about, your product, what you want people to be able to find and read about you. And then, of course, there's going to be navigation and hyperlinks, like all of this. There's going to be rollover and pop-up, but too early. So this is it for the deck. For examples, I don't think there's anything else in this week. Reading, and then the next class, tomorrow we start talking about navigation. We've already been talking about navigation. So we're going to be talking a bit more about navigation and patterns and conventions, but this is it for diagrams. So I'm hoping you get a good sense of what I pay attention to. And then I look forward to looking at the assignment for the IAs, the lab, and then the assignments tomorrow. And then tomorrow we'll talk about navigation as well. So what I can do is I can answer any questions that maybe Leah or Jamie that you have. I'll be more than happy to answer questions at this point.
Yeah, we had some questions about, we're in the same group, but we had some questions about our feedback from the initial Toronto Zoo card sort.
Okay.
So we did as a group, we did the diagram yesterday. Like, it's completed for the most part until we.
For the IA diagram, right? So
yeah, for the one due tomorrow.
So you want feedback about the IA diagram. You don't want feedback about core sorting.
No, we just had some questions about your feedback on Blackboard about the last assignment, because we, I guess, are confused about it for the most part. Well, I mean, anyway, I'll just go. You
Do you
said,
want to, do you want to share Miro or something with me? Because it's, I've got 10 classes and
oh
to know
yeah.
exactly what, yeah, it will be really helpful for me.
I just have to
And I'm very
find
visual, so
it.
I'll be able to get into context very quickly.
Um, sorry, I just have to remember which Miro it is. We have 20 Miros.
Oh, well, let's see if I can pull it. Maybe I can pull it from, hold on. Did you submit it, Demi, or was it Leah?
I think
Or
we both did because
Oh, I
there was
can
an
throw it
issue with
right now. There was an
Leah
issue.
submitting it.
I submitted the wrong part.
okay, so let's see. Yeah, I have the Miro link here.
I will just throw your feedback on a big sticky.
Wait, hold on. I have the link to Miro. Wait. Yes. Okay.
Okay. I don't see it. Oh no, I do. You're right.
No, I have to share it. So let's see.
I find Blackboard freezes my browser sometimes.
Oh, yeah, that's my this happened to me. You guys did well on yours on the assignment, by the way. Like actually the class average is very high. So yeah, no, you did well. Like you have 92%, right?
Mhm.
Or
Yeah,
very well.
there's just some feedback that seemed
Okay.
vital, and we wanted to make sure we were interpreting it properly.
Okay, so yeah, I have it open, but maybe you want to direct me, or you want to, I don't know if you want me to make you share and then you, but go ahead. Let's see. Yeah, you drive me through the feedback or take me where you want to take me.
Okay, so zoo has too many subcategories. Easy to deal with that. Yep, the about section, we had one of those.
Yes.
A key user goal may have disappeared from our final card sorting.
Yeah.
It's where most journeys start.
Okay. Yeah.
Did we lose home?
If you lose which one?
I thought we maybe lost like the zoo home site to begin with. But
No.
yeah.
So yes, buying. Where do I go for buying tickets?
Okay. Good.
Right?
Yep. We fixed. I think we got that. We got that.
So I was like, oh, so I go back to the user goals and I make sure that all, the goals are in the donate, because I'm very interested in donate too from the business, and some teams have missed donate or hidden. So yeah, so where do I buy my tickets?
Yeah, we have that.
That was one of the feedback.
Yeah, and then also.
And I would say between you and I, buying is so key. It's, the business, they want people to buy, they want people to donate. I would say it has to be somewhere very close to level 1, even for buying tickets.
Yeah.
So I'll be curious, interested to see how you've done for UI.
Okay, good. We've integrated that.
Okay, good. So, sorry, now it's all coming back to me, Leah. So yes, I think you have too many level 1.
Okay. Interesting.
But listen, I haven't gone through the full exercise that you have, but I'm afraid that we have a lot of level 1s that it will, depending on navigation, but maybe you're not ready yet to say we have too many, but when you start looking at navigation, you may have a challenge in fitting everything. I think there are a lot of level 1s. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think we pared it down a little bit when we did the when we moved it into an actual diagram. Because this that you're looking at is still the card sort from last week.
Yes, no, I know. So this is why it'll be very interesting to see how you solve or address this feedback in the IA, and then I will look back at this feedback and see how did we solve for it. But again, there's no one recipe, right? Like, okay, good. What else?
Well, coming back to that level one being a little overstuffed, some of our level one elements are things I think we were kind of picturing, like a footer. Is that something we can work into our IA, or is it like soon?
Yes, no, you could. Yes, if you show me on the footer, let's say corporate, maybe corporate and media will be on the footer, then okay, great. So then I know how you solve it. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Good. Any other feedback?
Now hold on though. On that point, when you think of corporate, for example, I'm going to play the devil advocate. Okay? I haven't been, but treat me as someone new coming to UIA from on day one, right? I'm sharing with you thinking about what I may think. When I think of corporate, I don't know if you're speaking of me as a corporation, or if you're speaking of you as our corporate organization. And then I would say, how is corporate organization different than About the Zoo? As About the Zoo, for me, in that point of view, you're one of the same. I'm forced to click on corporate to see what is really under corporate. So I'm just sharing with you how I may read this. But you've gone through a full exercise with participants. But corporates and events or About the Zoo may be similar. Corporates and About the Zoo for some people, may actually be one of the same. And that was more. Corporate was one that I was questioning a little bit, but I think you're talking about an organizations, right? The corporate artists, well, not artists, but family, corporation, or something else. But again, you don't have to answer and find a solution right now. But it was just what was coming to me when I was looking at UI.
Yeah, I think that corporate ended up being a funny category because I think a lot of things that people weren't interested in and didn't want to think about went in corporate. Because it's just like it has this important business person tone that wasn't, that was not the goals of like the people who did our card sort.
So, but again, like this is not like it's a small detail, but it's just if it's level one, then I would say everything at level one has to be like super understood and super critical, and then for the business, but I will look forward to seeing how you address maybe in your navigation of the IA, but even the IA. But if you explain to me now that I'm giving you more, then you may want to put a little note that says we've maintained corporate, but we think that maybe in navigation. I don't know. But yeah, that's how you could do it. Okay, good. What else?
Very good. I think that covers what we were unclear about.
Yeah.
I think
seems good.
Anything else, Jamie, on your side?
No, I think the other thing that we were unsure about was the critical business goal hiding in the final sort. I think that was the tickets that you were hinting at.
Or donations.
Yes.
Yeah, or donations, which I think, consolidated.
Okay. Yeah, it's donation, getting people to buy tickets, donation, user goal buying tickets is where my journey starts, right? You'll be pretty amazed when you look at also what has happened to other teams with their card sorting session and how they've redesigned. Again, there's no one like. It's not like I expect everybody to have all the same IA. In fact, there's so many ways. I could do my own IA and come up with probably something completely different. For me, what's important is, have you stick to your user goal, your business goal, user goal? Have you been carrying through this? Have you capped what you found, what I've seen in you? So I was looking at each of the card sorting and see if you've capped, if you've managed to maintain. And then you've done a very good job at telling me what you've done, your process. Like, you've done very well. Like, this is a very good mark. I'm a picky guy, and but you convinced me that you knew and what you did happened as well. So you did very, very good, and then these were things that I would probably for you to think and consider, right? That was just. And perhaps you haven't changed anything, or perhaps you have changed something, and that's okay too. If you can explain why you've made those decision, then that's the process to get to is more important than the final outcome, really. But then I will say, I think you may have challenges with corporate. I may think you have too many levels, but then the navigation will fix it. So no, you should be very happy. I can tell you worked hard. Everybody worked very hard, but you worked very hard. It was very well done.
Good.
Cool.
Okay.
Anything else?
Oh,
Okay, so you have the rest. You have the rest of the time for you to do whatever for in this class or any other class, and we'll see you tomorrow for navigation.
All right. Thanks so much, Yves.
Thank you for both coming. You're so loyal.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Jamie, me and Leah were by ourselves last week, so we're glad that you came and joined. But I felt like I was tutoring to Leah one-on-one. So, but thank you for coming. It's really appreciated. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yes,
Okay.
thank